Welcome to this week's episode of the Southern Ohio Farm Show. On this week's episode, we're going to have a weather forecast from Aaron Wilson. We're also going to talk about the yellow poplar tree with Dave Apsley. We're going to have information on how to remove ticks properly. We're also going to look at some spring planting of what's been going on in Southern Ohio. Growing your own spinach is another one of the topics we're going to have so that you can have a rich, iron-rich salad. And then we're also going to have specialty crop bulletins from Gary Gow. And last, home composting, the do's and the don'ts. Welcome to the Southern Ohio Farm Show. This is Gigi Neal of OSU Extension in Claremont County, Agricultural and Natural Resources Educator.
I'm James Morris, the Agricultural and Natural Resources and Community Development Educator for the Ohio State University Extension in Brown County.
Hello, my name is Richard Purdon. I'm with the Ohio State University Extension. I am the Ag and Natural Resource Educator for Adams County and the Community Development Educator for Adams County, Ohio.
And I'm Brooke Beam, the Ohio State University Extension Educator for Agriculture, Natural Resources, and Community Development in Highland County. And we will be your hosts for the Southern Ohio Farm Show.
Hi, everybody. Aaron Wilson, OSU Extension climatologist here for the Southern Ohio Farm Show weather update. Well, hopefully the dry weather over the last few days, at least the last 7 days, has provided some opportunities for farmers to get back out into the fields this week after some really heavy rainfall, certainly over Mother's Day weekend. This is a picture from Northwest Ohio, but we had pretty heavy rain statewide across the state. We have had heavier rain for portions of Hamilton and Claremont counties earlier this week as well, but hopefully we'll get some more opportunities over the next several days to finish up our planting season out there. Now, if we look at the last 7 days or so, it certainly has been on the cool side, averaging anywhere from 6 to 10 degrees below average, as you can see on the left-hand figure. And really over the last 30 days, those blue and purple shadings are indicating 4 to 8 degrees below average over the last 30 days. Also, over the last 30 days, we've seen sort of a switch in our pattern across the state. We've seen more rainfall. The yellow shading and the green shading indicate anywhere from 3.5 to 6.5 inches of rainfall over the last 30 days or so. And so that's been a bonus, a real plus to get some of our dry soils, especially in northern Ohio, saturated a bit. We weren't doing so bad here across our southern counties, and this certainly, this moisture, latest round of moisture is helping with the soil conditions out there. Now, turning our attention to the forecast, we really are going to be under the dominance of high pressure over the next 5, 6, 7 days. We will have opportunities for some scattered showers and thunderstorms today, for instance, but those highs are going to continue to warm. You know, it's been cool, but now we're looking at highs today really in the low 80s. Tomorrow through Saturday, we're looking at high temperatures really in the mid to upper 80s. So not something we really felt yet this year. Very warm conditions out there, a pretty dry stretch as well. So I think most of you will get wrapped up over the next several days. And then we could see the approach of some showers and thunderstorms back into the region as we hit Sunday afternoon and certainly into Monday afternoon. But again, our temperatures are going to be quite warm this week, mid to upper 80s. And you know what that means. That's going to bring all those cicadas out in huge numbers by the end of the week, I would imagine. So look forward to that across our southwestern Ohio region. The 8 to 14 day outlook for the period of May 25th through Memorial Day weekend, the 31st, does look like we're going to see above average temperatures likely. We should be in the mid to upper 70s. So we're looking at upper 70s to low 80s, mid 80s perhaps, with overnight lows likely to be in the 60s, above average again. We should see about an inch of rainfall per week. There's a chance we'll at least hit that, maybe a little bit more above average as well for that last week of May. The May through July outlook certainly looks like a warm summer this year. It looks like we're going to be pretty warm, especially in those overnight lows, I would imagine. We're going to carry the above average chance of precipitation at least through June and July as it looks. Now we'll get updates to these tomorrow, in fact, Thursday this week. So we'll be able to update you on the next weather update here on the Southern Ohio Farm Show. So with that, I'll go ahead and conclude today's presentation of the weather. Hope you have a great week. You can always find some more information at climate.osu.edu or Dr. Wilson's Weather on Twitter and Facebook. And as always, take care of yourselves, take care of each other, and we'll talk to you soon. Enjoy that summer-like weather this week. Bye for now.
Hello again, I'm Dave Apsley. I'm a forester and a natural resources specialist with Ohio State University Extension. Today is April 19th, and I'm joining you from Canner's Cave 4-H Camp near Jackson, Ohio. I'd like to introduce you to yellow poplar. It's also called tulip tree or tulip poplar. And none of those names are actually very botanically correct because it's not related to the poplars. The populus family of the poplars actually includes the aspens and the cottonwoods. And this one's not related at all. It's actually related to the magnolias, which we'll talk more about that later when we talk about the flowers. But it's very unique in another way, in fact, that it has leaves that have 4 lobes. So if you think about most leaves, they have an odd number of lobes. They have a tip at the top, and then they have lobes on both sides. This one actually has lobes on each side and 2 lobes near the tip. And then it has either kind of a flattened top, but normally it has a little notch in it. So instead of coming to a nice point, you're going to see a notch at the very tip. And the leaf kind of resembles a tulip, the flower from the side. They can get 5 to about 7 inches in length. They can be a fairly large leaf, and those leaves do alternate sides of the twig. Right now, these leaves are just popping out of the buds, and some of them are actually still folded in half. And one of my favorite parts of this tree is it actually has very unique buds. Those buds are valvate. They actually have 2 bud scales, and they look a lot like a duck's bill. You'll see a seam down the middle, and then as that bud breaks in the spring, you're going to see little leaves stacked inside there, and they start unfolding one at a time. They're folded in half, they unfold, and then new leaves emerge. And you can actually take that bud apart during the winter months and predict how many leaves are going to come out of this tree. Right now it's April 19th, and the leaves are really starting to expand. When you look up on the hillside, you're going to see a little bit of a green tinge to it, and a lot of that's yellow poplar. Yellow poplar leaves are alternate. They do alternate sides of the twig. And then the other characteristics that make it really unique are the flowers. I mentioned earlier that it's relative of the magnolias. So unlike most magnolias that are native, they'll produce white or creamy white flowers. This one produces a very unique flower. It's fairly large, 3 to 5 inches or so in diameter. They're green, orange, and yellow, so a very unusual color combination. They're really good for pollinators, but you typically don't see many of them because they're so high up in the crowns of these massive trees. If the trees are open grown, sometimes you can find the flowers down low. But in a wooded setting, typically you don't see much evidence of these flowers until they start breaking apart and falling to the ground. These flowers start to mature in the month of May normally in southern Ohio. After the flowers are mature, it's going to produce fruits. And these trees are very prolific seeders. They produce these little cone-like structures with these hooked seeds. They're a winged seed, kind of look like an ash seed somewhat, but instead of having that same seed, they have more of a hook at the end, and these seeds are all kind of aggregated together in this cone-like structure. In the fall and the winter months, you can look up at the crown, and it almost looks like a walnut or something up there from below, but if you can get to the side, they look like a cone, and they're packed full of these seeds. And it doesn't take long at all to find them on the forest floor. I probably took a second to dig away a little leaf litter under this yellow poplar stand to find dozens and dozens of these seeds. And these seeds will lay dormant in the understory until there's a disturbance. Once there's a disturbance and you get lots of light to the forest floor, then they'll germinate and start growing. So this species really does well in full light conditions, and it battles hard to stay up in the canopy. So another great characteristic of this tree is you'll look up and you don't see much crown except in the very top part of that tree. They don't have big spreading crowns. They have a nice central leader and a little tight crown. You'll also notice they self-prune very well. So again, very few leaves down low. They make beautiful straight lumber, and they can pack in very tight on a good site, which typically is a slope, probably lower on the slope, east or north facing, where you have deep soils and plenty of moisture. They can get massive. They can get very tall, well over 150 feet in height. At Joyce Kilmer down in the western part of the North Carolina, you'll find these trees 5 to 7 feet in diameter, just massive trees that grow very fast. So as far as lumber production, they can be pretty valuable tree. On a per board foot basis, they're nowhere near as valuable as, say, black walnut. But because we can grow these trees so tall and they're very knot free, and because they grow with such small crowns, we can grow a lot of board footage on an acre on an annual basis. They're packed in there, they grow very fast, they grow very tall, so we get lots of volume stacked on top of each other. As far as wildlife value, doesn't have a ton of wildlife value except for the flowers that produces and the fact those flowers are used by pollinators. As a young squirrel hunter, I did find squirrels using these poplar cones when they're still green and there's not a lot of other food available. They will actually eat on those cones as well. So again, this is yellow poplar. Probably the best way to describe it when you see it in the woods, they have very straight stems. They don't taper a lot. You'll see lots of them behind me in this stand, and they're actually beautiful. Bark varies a lot. It can be very smooth with some vertical streaks in it when they're young. It gets this pattern, which to me looks very similar to, say, an ash tree, and then as it gets older, it gets very deeply furrowed. So again, yellow poplar, or tulip tree, and it's a member of the magnolia family. Thank you very much. Have a great day, and please take at least part of it to spend it in the woods. Hello, this is Dave Apsley again, and I've got Tim McDermott to do a little quick piece on how to remove a tick if you've got one. So you get out of the woods, you come home, and you do the tick check like we told you before, and you find a tick that's embedded. What do you do? What do you recommend, Tim?
So when a tick attaches to a human, a livestock animal, or companion animal, what it does is several different things. Its mouth part is like a flat-bladed shovel with serrations on it, and that gets injected into the host. As a tick feeds, and they can feed for up to 7 to 10 days, they're going to get radically larger as they engorge with blood. And so having a removal process in place and knowing how to do this carefully and correctly is going to make sure that you can remove the tick without damaging yourself or any of your animals, and preserve that tick in a way that when you send it in for testing, they will be able to test it because it will be mostly intact. So because that tick is embedded in you, it's important that you don't just grab it by its backside and try to yank it out that way, or to use any of the old wives' tale removal things out there, like putting
Vaseline,
a cigarette, diesel
lighter,
fuel, any of those things. They are not effective. And in fact, if you were to burn or scorch that tick, it might contract and inject all of the nasty stuff into you, the same it would do if you just grab it by the backside. So what you want to do is you want to take some tweezers, usually something with a nice sharp point. There are a number of tick removal tools that are sold on the internet for fairly inexpensive, and these are a good option to have, and a lot of folks will buy them and keep them on their keychain so they have them with them at all time. You need to make sure that you're getting all the way down to the mouth parts, which are embedded in the skin, and a lot of times there's swelling around that host site that can make it difficult to do that. So by using your tweezers and coming in on the tick, you push down on the skin so that you can get all the way down to the mouth part, and with gentle pressure you're going to pull that tick up and try to remove it whole. Once you have your tick, it is important that you keep that tick. You don't have to put it in any special chemicals or fluids that way. Stick it in a Ziploc bag and seal it up tight, because the recommendation that I have for all of our clients is if you have had a tick embedded in you even for a short period, there is a chance that you have had some disease vector to you. There are companies now that if you send these ticks to them, and these are university laboratories, they can test these ticks for a number of the most common bacterial and viral diseases that ticks will transmit to people. It's fairly inexpensive. We're talking about Tick Report. Don't quote me on the cost. The last time I looked at it was $50 for a test, but for what you get and for the speed that you get that return to you, that will allow you to have some knowledge in terms of, was this tick infective in the first place? And then you can take that knowledge to your doctor so that you can develop that treatment protocol to try to make sure that you don't get any of the nasty and potentially devastating diseases that ticks will vector to people.
Okay, thanks, Tim. That's very useful. Ticks are serious business. The diseases they carry are just really scary. So let's take care of yourself and make sure you remove those ticks correctly.
Springtime is a very busy season for farmers in southern Ohio. Spring weather allows for farmers to get into the fields to plant their yearly crops. In this video, you will see a series of equipment that is being used to prep fields for planting. In the first segment, you'll see a John Deere 9510 RT tractor using a Sunflower 6433 tillage tool to prepare the ground. In the second half, you'll see a John Deere tractor and a John Deere 1775 NT planter. The planter is a high-speed planter which allows farmers to plant more acres in a day.
So for home gardeners, we, after several years of really hard work, about 3.5 years, we were able to publish this bulletin. It's called Midwest Home Fruit Production Guide, and it's our OSU extension Bulletin 940. And I'm really happy to say that this is one of our best sellers from 2009 to present, which is 2019. And we have sold almost, 5,000, maybe 300, 400 copies. As you can tell, there are lots of neat pictures, diagrams, and all that. And see, I love pictures and diagrams. So this is a beautiful bulletin. And then for those folks who are looking for pest management information, this is OSU Extension Bulletin 780. It's called Controlling Diseases and Insects in Home Fruit Plantings. So you can get both from your local extension office, or you can get it from our OSU Extension Publications office online.
Hi, I'm Andrew Holden, and in this video I'm going to be sharing with you the sustainable practice of home composting. I like to compost for three main reasons. The first being it keeps my food scraps out of the landfill. The second is that I can use the compost to help improve the soil quality and the drainage in my garden, like right here behind me. And then third, it is a source of nutrients that I can use in my flower beds and in my garden so that I can use less chemical and manufactured fertilizers. One decision you will have to make when you decide to start composting is which kind of pile you would like to have. This pile is an example of a simple heap. There's no cost for this, as you are just piling up your compostable material in one spot, and it is easy to provide aeration and turn when needed. The disadvantage of this style is that it can attract animals, it can spread out and become messy, and it may be unsightly for some people. Next up, we have a closed bin system. This system allows you to keep the compost all in one spot. It looks a little neater than the simple heap style, and it can be low cost if you build it yourself. This one has the ability to take the front and the top off so that you can have easy access to provide aeration and turn the compost when needed. Finally, we have an example here of a turning drum bin. This can make compost a lot quicker than the other styles mentioned, but it is the most expensive, and depending on size, it may be too small for your usage. Once you select the bin that you would like to use, the next step is to start filling it up. We recommend a compost recipe of 3 parts brown material to 1 part green material. An example of green material is material high in nitrogen such as vegetable and fruit scraps, eggshells, and coffee grounds. An example of high carbon brown material is paper products, dry leaves in the fall, or sawdust. We also recommend that you don't add any household pet manure, meat, fish, dairy products, anything with oil or fat, or treated lumbers or plywoods. In my kitchen, I have a container that I use for my food scraps that I take out to the compost pile every couple days. I repurpose a yogurt container to hold my food scraps, but if you need more room, try using a coffee tin or an ice cream pail. Remember, meat and bones like these leftover chicken wing scraps should not be going in your compost bin. As you begin to build your pile, remember that the composting process takes water and oxygen. Make sure that your compost stays moist but not wet, and make sure that you turn your compost pile with a pitchfork or a shovel every month to make sure that it's getting the proper amount of oxygen. Your compost is completed when it is crumbly and dark brown and has the feel of potting soil. It is then ready to be used in your flower beds and gardens. Composting at home is a great sustainable practice because it keeps your food scraps out of the landfill and gives you an organic nutrient to use around your house.